Well, just like that, the NFL draft is over. A lot of players made it out unscathed. However, there were quite a few guys that saw their roles change due to the drafting of some incoming rookies. In today's show, we're talking about a few of the biggest fantasy winners and losers from the NFL draft. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Hopefully everyone's doing well out there today. We're talking about a few of the biggest winners and losers from the 2024 NFL draft. Now, hopefully you enjoyed the draft over the weekend. Maybe get some of those juices flowing again. Starting to want to get back into fantasy football. I know I am for sure. Now that we're past the draft, we can go to 5 shows a week on YouTube. Our draft guide, it's already live. It already has Dynasty content on there right now. Now, just because it's live in April doesn't mean it's just going to stay the way it is. That's what's beautiful about an online draft guide. We can update and add to that bad boy all the way up until week 1 of the NFL season. So now is the time to go ahead and get one. So you can have all that information all off season long. So when your draft rolls around, whenever it may be, you're absolutely covered. Now, you can head over to tfhdraftguide.com to get yourself one right now, or you can sign up for a new account over on Underdog. When you sign up for a new account on Underdog using the referral code Headliners, we're going to send you a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. Plus, they're going to match your deposit up to $100. So it's super simple, right? Create that new account, use the referral code Headliners, make that minimum $10 deposit, and I'll go ahead and send you a draft guide so you can absolutely just dominate in 2024. But all right, let's go ahead and talk about some of the biggest winners and losers. And losing sucks. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the winners first. The first one being, how about Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals? And I was already on board with Kyler Murray. He's a guy that averages 18 plus fantasy points per game that he plays in. He's definitely a high-end fantasy option. A lot of people maybe a little bit colder on him here in 2024, but now they've added arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. But they also added more weapons as well. How about running back Trey Benson out of Florida State? That's 4.3 speed with pass catching ability. But they also added another tight end in Tip Ryman out of Illinois, 6'5", 271 pounds, and above average blocking tight end. The pieces are falling into place for Kyler Murray to have another high-end ceiling type season. Now, while the Arizona Cardinals may not be Super Bowl contenders, and their defense may not be one of the best in the NFL, they're gonna be trailing, which means Kyler Murray's gonna have to be throwing. And now that he's throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., the ceiling's only going to be higher. He definitely has to be a draft day winner. How about Zamir White, running back from the Las Vegas Raiders? Now, a lot of people expected maybe some wholesale changes in Las Vegas, maybe a new quarterback, maybe some added running back depth, maybe another wide receiver. Not really. They didn't add any running backs in the draft until the 6th round, but they did grab Brock Bowers early in the draft in the 1st round. That kind of tells me that the Las Vegas Raiders kind of want to go to a little bit more of a 2 tight end set with last year's early tight end Michael Mayer. Now, it's never a bad thing when you have more big bodies on that offensive line when it comes to run blocking for guys like Zamir White. We saw him produce when he got volume in 2023. And let's be completely honest with each other here. When you look at the depth chart, the guy directly behind him is Alexander Mattison. I think we all saw Alexander Mattison last year and probably shouldn't be too worried. But what about another running back? How about Zach Moss of the Cincinnati Bengals? No other running backs brought into Cincinnati during free agency. But the big kicker is no other running backs drafted in the NFL draft either. There is no one else on this roster right now in Cincinnati that is going to challenge Zach Moss for early down work. Sure, we may see some Chase Brown at times. That's fine. That's kind of expected. That lesser role, kind of a change of pace type back. Zach Moss is in line for 18 plus touches though per game in 2024. Plus, he's still playing for a long-term contract. The guy has something to play for on a high-octane offense in the NFL. He's going to have touchdown opportunities. We saw him capitalize in Indianapolis without Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss is a huge draft day winner. But I also think that Rico Dowdle needs to be included in this video as well, Because apparently when the Dallas Cowboys came out and said, hey, we're all in, that means something different than what everyone else on earth thought all in meant, because they really haven't done much of anything. There were rumors in the offseason they could bring in a running back. There were rumors during the NFL draft that they could draft a running back, and nothing happened. So as of right now, when you look at the depth chart, Rico Dowdle is their starting running back going in to 2024. Now, there are rumors out there that Ezekiel Elliott could come back to Dallas, but I think we can all agree at this point, he's kind of a shadow of his old self. How about Deuce Vaughn? Maybe a change of pace type guy, but he'd get absolutely killed with a heavy workload in the NFL. Royce Freeman, we've seen that before. There's a reason he continues to bounce around the league. None of these guys are world beaters. Rico Dowdle could be in for a huge workload in 2024. But let's go ahead and add another Raider to the winners list, right? Let's go double Raider here and talk about the guard dog, Gardner Minshew. Now, it seemed like every QB needy team out there got a quarterback with the exception of Las Vegas, and maybe that's because they're comfortable with what they had in Gardner Minshew and didn't feel like going out there and trading a crap ton to move up for a guy that maybe they didn't overly believe in. Plus, they added another pass-catching weapon in Brock Bowers to go along with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer. There's plenty of options in this offense for Gardner Minshew to be a viable quarterback too in fantasy football. So if you're one of those that plays in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex league, don't forget about Gardner Minshew here this offseason. How about Devin Singletary, running back for now, the New York Giants? And there was no running back drafted in New York early enough that's going to go out there and compete for a lead spot. This offense in New York, though, it has to be better than what we saw last year. They just added Malik Neighbors, arguably one of the best wide receivers in the draft. Daniel Jones should be back and healthy. I'm not convinced that that's a good thing yet, but it can't be any worse than what we saw last year. We saw Saquon Barkley struggle to be efficient in this offense, but we also saw Saquon Barkley get big-time volume. As of right now, there's no one else to get big-time volume in this backfield in New York besides Devin Singletary. The Giants, they've also added 6 different offensive linemen to the roster this offseason. They're trying to be better, and when the volume's going to be there for Devin Singletary, he could be a great later round value. But what about another running back? How about Javante Williams of the Denver Broncos? Now, is Bo Nix a future franchise quarterback? A lot of people, they don't believe so. A lot of people think that he's going to head to Denver and compete in a mid-off with Zach Wilson at the quarterback position. But we also know that Denver did add Troy Franklin out of Oregon, the former teammate of Bo Nix. He has someone familiar to throw the ball to. It's not just Cortland Sutton, which is good because that can pull defenders outside of the box. But here's another silver lining, I guess you could say. 30% of Bo Nix's passes in 2023 were behind the line of scrimmage, and we all saw Zach Wilson feed the ball through the air to Breece Hall just last year with the Jets. Now, I know a lot of people are going to mention that the Broncos did draft a running back, Audric Estime, out of Notre Dame in the 5th round. He's there to be the backup, though, and as much as he is a Sean Payton-style running back, they're not going to completely just abandon Javante Williams just yet. Don't forget, Javante Williams has a little bit of an injury history. They need a little bit of insurance there in Denver, but as of right now, Javante Williams still in line for huge volume. But we also got to mention Trevor Lawrence as well as a winner. Now, yes, he lost Calvin Ridley this offseason. He's then in turn gained Gabe Davis, and now they just drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, and I absolutely love Brian Thomas Jr., one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft. Definitely is going to give Trevor Lawrence a big-bodied wide receiver to go out there and just dominate down the field. We already love Christian Kirk. We already know about Evan Ingram at the tight end position. Gabe Davis probably going to be a little bit hit and miss. How about a top 5 fantasy running back in Travis Etienne? Overall, this offense is going to be loaded with talent. Can they put it together earlier in the season in 2024 is the biggest question. But I don't know if we're going to get better options for Trevor Lawrence to throw it to. This is by far the best overall offense he's had. Now he's got to just put it together. He's definitely a draft day winner, and so is Najee Harris, and I guess we could also include Jaylen Warren here as well. It is possible that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to run the ball like 600 times in 2024. We already know their new offensive coordinator is Arthur Smith, and he loves to run the football. But most importantly, Pittsburgh just added 3 absolute monsters on the offensive line during the NFL draft. It started off early with Troy Fautanu out of Washington. Then it went to Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, and then Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. So this offensive line is greatly improved. We're going to have a run-heavy offense. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are already going to get huge volume, but now they may actually have big holes to run through. Definitely some draft day winners. But let's go ahead and transition over to some losers. Guys like Keenan Allen, he's definitely going to take a fantasy hit. They added rookie wide receiver Rome Odunze, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL draft. Now, he's going to be an immediate impact player in this offense. Keenan Allen's not going to be totally just disappearing, but the weekly target share that he was in line to get may not be there anymore. He's a little bit older, a little bit more of an injury history, not as versatile as a DJ Moore. Now, don't get me wrong. He's going to be involved weekly. He's going to be a great veteran leader for this team. But the numbers that we've seen him achieve in the past may not really be there for him in 2024. And I kind of feel the same way about Dak Prescott. Every single team in the NFC East has gotten better on offense this offseason, except for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, it's not like they were just bad on offense, but they didn't do anything to get any better or to at least keep pace with the other teams in this division. Now, it is great that Dallas went out and got a left tackle in the first round of the draft with Tyler Guyton, but no other added weapons really for Dak Prescott, no immediate playmakers for Dak Prescott. For the most part, Dallas was out there during the NFL draft just drafting depth. No immediate boost to the game of Dak Prescott, and that's going to hurt because all the other teams in the NFC East got a little bit better. But let's go ahead and transition to a couple running backs. Now, let's start off with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders in Carolina. Now, there's a new coaching staff in Carolina, and let's just be honest, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, they're not their guys. So what did they do? They went out and got a guy they wanted, and they went and got him early in the second round. It's running back Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, and he's going to take over this backfield. But Carolina also added more offensive weapons. They're trying to help Bryce Young out. They got Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina. They got Jatavius Sanders at the tight end position. But they also didn't address the offensive line in the draft either, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. You got to think they're going to want to air it out a little bit more here this year in Carolina, which just spells disaster for Chuba Hubbard. How about Rashad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They went out and drafted Bucky Irving out of Oregon. Now, no, that does not totally kill the value of Rashad White. But one of the biggest boosts to the game of Rashad White is the pass work that he receives basically weekly. Now, arguably, the biggest strength of Bucky Irving is his pass-catching ability. And it is no secret that Rashad White struggles to be efficient on the ground. The guy isn't even averaging 4 yards per carry for his entire career. He cannot afford to lose the pass work. He carried a lot of people in 2023, but it was on the back of all that pass work. I believe he had like 70 targets. If he loses a chunk of that passing work to the incoming rookie Bucky Irving, it could really hurt some fantasy football rosters because Rashad White is definitely more expensive this year. How about James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals? Now, we know that James Conner is not known for being some sort of NFL Iron Man, but he was in line for huge volume going into 2024. Huge volume on an overall better offense in Arizona than what we saw in 2023. Then Arizona went out and spent an early third-round pick on Trey Benson out of Florida State. Now, James Conner, for sure, he's going to start the season as the lead back in this offense. But you have to think that Benson is going to get touches weekly. And what terrifies me about that is Trey Benson is basically a much younger James Conner clone. Everything that James Conner can do, Trey Benson can do it maybe just a little bit better. 4.3 speed, and he's still 6 foot, 215 pounds. James Conner is getting a little bit older. Of course, everyone knows that, but Trey Benson is the future in Arizona. And if anything happens with a slow start to James Conner, he could be in trouble there second half of the season. And then let's just go ahead and finish it off with Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, teams are out there just going crazy on offense. They're assembling high-end wide receiver trios, yet Lamar Jackson has Zay Flowers and let's just be real, that's really all he has at the wide receiver position. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, and Brock Purdy are all top 12 fantasy quarterbacks who got new immediate impact weapons. We cannot say that right now about Lamar Jackson. He got Devontae Walker out of UNC in the 4th round. He is a project to develop. He's not going to make an immediate impact. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and act like Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers is enough for Lamar Jackson to go out there and have some super high production in the passing game. No, I have not forgotten about Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews can't seem to stay healthy and on the field anymore either, and that is a huge concern heading into 2024. I would have absolutely loved to see Lamar Jackson leave the NFL draft weekend with some sort of high-end weapon that can really help take him to the next level that he could have paired with Zay Flowers. But like we said in the intro, now is the time to really dive into 2024 fantasy football. We kind of know what these teams are going to look like now. We can start building out some projections and really start finding who these guys are that we want in our fantasy football lineups in 2024. So before we get out of here for the day, if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, now is the time to do so. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for the day. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day, but most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same.